is going to help you learn how to communicate under pressure. Perhaps, maybe you are a woman in a leadership role and you found yourself in a very highly visible situation where all eyes are just watching you. Maybe you may be somebody that may be a man in leadership and you've transitioned in that similar type of role. Well, I want to share with you today really just some insights, some things that people probably don't talk about that much when you start mastering how to communicate under pressure. Now, this is a Q&A and this is a live video, and there is a point in time where the audience will join and you'll see me interact with them. But for now, I just want to talk to you about a couple of insights that I've learned over the years to master communicating under pressure. I'll outline them and then I'll go into a bit more detail with my audience when they join. Now, if you're new to me, my name is Dr. Jacinta, and if you are one of my absolutely amazing subscribers, welcome back, friend. This channel heavily focuses in on advanced communication skills and strategies that will help you to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. If you want to learn how to manage those very high stakes situations, this is the best channel on YouTube for you to learn that information. I go into techniques, strategies that a lot of channels don't talk about because they haven't been in some of the very contentious situations, I would say, that I have been in over the years. If you happen to be a woman in leadership, you are welcome to reach out to me for an executive strategy session or for my transformative high stakes communication intensive. It will completely change your life and you will never communicate the same ever again. You will always be ready and you will never freeze. Now, let's talk about a couple of highlights. So, I want to share with you, and you're welcome to ask me any questions if you're watching this live or watching the replay. What challenges are you facing right now as it relates to communicating under pressure? Put them in the comments below. So, I'm going to share with you my four insights I'm going to talk about today in terms of communicating under pressure that a lot of people don't talk about. And I want you just to be prepared. Not only am I helping you to learn how to communicate under pressure, but I want you to know some of the challenges you may experience when you start to master the skill. The first insight I want to share with you is that you are always planning when you're communicating under pressure. The second insight is going to be that you will find yourself in a situation where you are mentally tired. Third insight is going to be that you will find yourself in a place where you're constantly fighting. And number four is really important, really, really, really important. You'll find yourself feeling a little bit isolated. So, we're going to talk about all four of those today. But if you have questions about communicating under pressure, maybe you've been in a really challenging situation this week and you didn't know how to communicate, thank you for the heart emojis, friends. This is your place. This is your safe space to ask me any questions, any scenarios you have going on that is, of course, professional related that you need some support with. I'm here to help you, especially if you are in a leadership role. All right, we have Roblox. Hello, Roblox. How you doing today? Thank you for the heart emojis, friends. So let me talk to you about some of the insights, some things to keep in mind when you start mastering communicating under pressure. First, you want to subscribe to my channel, okay? You want to subscribe to my channel so you learn this information. But let me share with you what people don't really talk about when you master the skill. You are constantly planning ahead. When you are mastering communicating under pressure, it is not a skill that you just wake up one day and you're awake and you say, I know how to do it today. No, it is a skill that you have to develop and receive additional support and training on. Now, this is something I do with my clients in the high stakes communication intensive. We go through stress tests, pressure drills. I help them get ready to respond quickly under pressure. Now, specifically, when I'm referring to you are always having to plan ahead, when you are at a point, and I want to say hello to Milton Beats. Hello, hope you're doing well today, friend. When you're at a point where you're trying your best to, when you are mastering those high pressure conversations, you are constantly thinking ahead. Many people wonder, well, how are you able to really master high pressure conversations under pressure situations? How can you speak in an articulate way, in a concise way that sounds very polished when you're in these situations? Much of it comes from planning. I have typically, and I'm sharing this from you because I have mastered this skill. I am always thinking steps ahead. When you have a situation that you potentially know might be a situation that will go under pressure, as I say, you have to think about it in advance. Now, there's a couple of ways you can think about this in advance. I will tell you, just as I mentioned, this is a Q&A. Whatever struggles you're dealing with right now, ask me in the comments below if you're struggling with communicating when you're in under pressure situations. But I'm just going to talk to you freely today, okay? This is what the lives are on Fridays. They're free talk. Let's just have a chat. One of the best ways for you to start planning ahead, as I mentioned, you constantly are planning ahead, is to read people. Now, you may be thinking, there's no way to read people. And to a certain extent, that may be true. However, there is a way for you to very closely observe people and be able to make your own deductions in terms of what they're thinking, what they're doing. This is a game changer. If you can start learning how to read people, seriously, learn how to read people by subscribing to my channel, you will absolutely get in the mindset of planning ahead. You will constantly be able to plan ahead. All right, before I go into the other insights I want to share, hello, James, Jack, Jackson, James, hello, James. We have Rosa. Hello, Rosa. Hope you're doing well today. All right. So we talked about you have to plan ahead if you're trying to do, thank you for the heart emojis. You have to plan ahead if you're trying to be someone that communicates under pressure. You have to take some time. And if you know you're having a conversation with this person, you have to take some time to think about what is this conversation going to be about. Thank you for the heart emojis and smiley faces, friends. Now, if you were just talking to a friend on the phone, okay, do you really need to plan that out? No. However, if you're in a professional setting and you're communicating with a board, or you're communicating with some of the leaders, or you're communicating with a group of people, you need to think about it. Or if you're attending just a simple meeting in your employment opportunity, or if you're working in your business, you need to have some time to think about what is this meeting going to be about? What are some of the problems we're experiencing right now, and what are some solutions that I could potentially add to alleviate this problem? This is what I mean by you have to always be planning ahead. You have to always think about what is it I'm speaking about? What do I need to do? How can I come up with some talking points to do that? Now, I want to know from you, are any of you struggling or dealing with some type of situation, or maybe there's a part of communicating under pressure that has constantly been a pain point from you for you? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Let me know what you're struggling with. I'm here to support you any way that I can. Now, the second insight that I want to share with you when you start learning how to master communicating under pressure is that you tend to internalize a lot more than what you think. Now, many people will say, when I have under pressure situations, my face, I talk to you all about this all the time, facial expressions, eye contact, body language, tone of voice, silence, all of that comes together to help you communicate under pressure and showcase yourself as a person that can handle pressure situations. However, it takes a lot of thought and a lot of energy for you to be able to control your facial expressions. Let me explain to you. When you are in a situation where you are being faced with somebody debating back and forth with you, thank you for the heart emojis. It's so easy for you to frown, to look at them like they have lost their mind, or look at them in a certain type of way. But it takes a lot more energy for you to be very, very stoic and keep your facial expressions very neutral. So much to the point where I have been in situations where I have mastered communicating under pressure, and I have kept the stoic face, this face that is basically, I'm focusing on what you're saying, but I'm not agreeing with you. I've had to take a break after that. I've had a headache. I've had a lot because I am internalizing all that so that forward facing, it looks like I have everything where it needs to be. And majority of the time I do. Sometimes it just depends on the situation. But majority of times when you start mastering this skill, you'll feel a lot more comfortable with it, and it will not internally impact you as much. All right, let me go to the chat. Milton Beat says, is it important to think about what you're going to say before you speak, depending on the demographic? Yes, absolutely. And Roblox, I'm going to get to your question in just a moment. Milton, yes, it is important to think about what you're going to say before you speak all the time. And this is the part where I mentioned about thinking. You're always thinking. You're always thinking. If you're in a very laid back setting, then you may not need to think as much. However, there may be situations that come up, Milton, where you may not feel comfortable talking about a topic. And if you know, let's say you're dealing with something personally and you don't want to talk about it, then you may want to take some time and say, what are my triggers? I talk about this a lot on my channel. And if there's certain aspects of your life that will trigger a emotional response from you, then you want to try to find some type of templated response for those specific situations and deflect the conversation and change it to something else. But if you are trying to talk to some professionals or people in your businesses or people in your workplace, yes, Milton, I would absolutely have something in mind. If it is a meeting, if it's just a hello, how are you doing? Of course, you don't necessarily need to process that. But I would say this is how you start to become more strategic in terms of how you think, Milton. Because if you can take time and know that you're going to have meetings with people and you know you're going to have these meetings and you take just a few moments, Milton, just a few, you don't need that much time to think about what is this meeting about? What is it that I can share? What problems are we having? How can I help solve them? That is a good framework for you to use every time you're having those conversations. Yes, it is important for you to be able to think ahead before you're going to say something. It doesn't matter on your demographic. It doesn't matter who you're talking to. Milton, this is for everybody, regardless of the demographic, where they live. It doesn't matter. Have a plan. Have a plan when you have a conversation. And this, Milton, is how you start to think in a bit more strategic way and how you will start to really stand out from everybody else because people are going to say, Milton has always got it together. Milton always has it together. They're always articulate. They know what they're going to say. That is how you start to master communicating under pressure, friend. Okay, Roblox says, I struggle with speaking in public. Now, Roblox, I want to tell you that most people struggle with speaking in public. So you are not alone. You are not alone, friend. First, subscribe to the channel because I talk about a lot of strategies here that will help you to start speaking in public. I've been a public speaker for over 20 years myself, and I became a distinguished Toastmaster from Toastmasters International many years ago, where about 1% of their 358,000 members worldwide accomplished this award. So I've done my fair share of public speaking. I've been on the news. I've done a lot. Now, if you struggle with speaking in public, sometimes it comes down to communicating under pressure. When you are speaking in public, Roblox, it is one of the highest pressure situations you will ever face in your life. And a lot of times people struggle with it because there's this fear. One, they don't know what to say. Two, their emotions get the best of them. Three, they're probably very nervous. And four, they don't know how to interact with an audience. And we talk about this a lot on the channel. There's several videos. I have over 1,000 videos here on my live tab or in general on my channel, but my live tab has a lot. And if you find yourself struggling to speak in public, take some time to start refining how you are speaking to people in general. Many people, Roblox, feel as if public speaking is only for TEDx events or TED Talks or conferences or YouTube channels or some other public facing event. But I want to encourage you that I've been doing this for a long time, and public speaking really starts to be developed in your day to day conversations. Public speaking is not only for those larger events, it's for your everyday interactions you have with people. So, Roblox, if there's something that you're trying to improve upon, start little. Start small. Start with something that specifically you want to work on. If it is your tone of voice or using pauses strategically, then start practicing that. This channel has several videos on that, and I am going to do a bit more pre-recorded videos here very soon that will technically help you do this, but try to use silence in a conversation and become more comfortable with it. A good place for you to start, Milton, also not Milton, but Roblox also, is to start learning how to develop these three aspects of communication that a lot of people struggle with. And I'm going to share it with you and then I'm going to go to the chat. One aspect of communication, and there's a lot people struggle with across the world, but I just narrowed it down to the three most important ones. I feel like if you can master these, you'll be able to communicate very well. Eye contact, facial expressions, and silence in a conversation. Roblox, if you can start working on those three, in your day-to-day conversations, it will start to help you build up some momentum when you start speaking in front of other people because you've already started to master it in a in a smaller setting. Now, when you're at the point where you're going to a group of people and you're speaking in public, now that's when you need to call me. You need to reach out to me and I will help you get to where you need to be. But start mastering those very small aspects of communication first. Well, not small, let me not say that. The large aspects of communication that will help you be very successful when you are transitioning those same skills to very large audiences. I want to say hello to Chaz, man of culture. Welcome back, Chaz. Good to see you, friend. Good to see you. Chaz says hi. Okay, Milton Beats says, oh, a live, regular kind. Let's see. Okay. Okay, live regular kind of recommended your YouTube channel, said I should check it out. It's very helpful. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. A regular live member recommended your YouTube channel. Who was it that recommended the channel? Please let me know so I can give them a shout out, Milton. I appreciate that. Tell that person I'm humbled by them recommending my channel, and I really appreciate that. That truly makes my day. So let me know who it was that referred you over. I wonder if it's somebody that's regular, then I probably can pick up their name pretty quick. But I appreciate you mentioning that. That truly does make my day. And I'm really here to support you all. I know it is not easy communicating under pressure, and I want you all to be those absolutely amazing leaders that we need in the world today. If this is a place where you can learn how to communicate under pressure and be in those challenging situations and just do it in such a way where people say, wow, this person is completely amazing, then this is what I wish for you. Many leaders know how to communicate, but they do not know how to communicate well when they are under pressure. And that is my expertise. I've been in a lot of under pressure situations, friends. Thank you for the heart emojis. And I'm sharing over 20 years worth of my experience as a C-suite executive, a director, a manager. I've interacted with congressional leaders at the highest levels of our federal government. I have done quite a bit, and I'm sharing it with you just because I want you to be successful. I want you to be that person that everybody's completely blown away about when you speak because they know, like, wow, this person sounds so well, and they can manage themselves under pressure. How do they do that? That's what I'm here to support you with. Okay, Milton Beats says Cat 23rd. Oh, Cat, yes, of course. I'm gonna give Cat a high five. Milton Terra, I said, give her a high five. Cat is wonderful. She is a regular viewer here on the channel. She has given some really fantastic insight. I still have a list of topics that I have been working through on subjects that she wanted to learn more about specifically. Kat is amazing, and I told Kat, I said thank you, and next time I see her on the live, I'll tell her thank you as well. I know she's probably pretty busy with college right now. Okay, Roblox K says also thank you, and Roblox says you're so helpful. Absolutely, Roblox. I'm here to help you. That's why I'm here. I am actually trying to build. This is my mission on this earth. I'm going to build the largest high stakes, high pressure communication content library on planet Earth for leaders. That is what I'm doing. I have over 1,000 videos here on my YouTube channel, and I'm just getting warmed up. I'm just getting started on here. I've been on YouTube doing lives for the past year, so many that I was contacted by YouTube to be a member of their live streamer program, live streamer research panel. I've been on the panel for a year now, and I take this seriously. I see how so many people that have the absolute amazing potential to do wonderful things in life, and they do not do them because they're afraid of how they communicate. They freeze when they're about to speak. When someone interrupts them, they don't know what to say. Or when someone tries to talk over them, they just let them do it. And I don't want you to do that. Whether you are in my direct target audience that I provide services to that are women in leadership, or you are a man in leadership, or you are thinking about leadership, I want you to be that person that can be a shining star when those under pressure situations come to you, so that the next time somebody tries to interrupt you or give you a hard time, you're ready. And I don't want you to be the person that says, oh gosh, I didn't know what to say, I didn't know what to do. You will not be that way if you follow my channel. So I appreciate you all being here, and I'm here to support you any way that I can. So I mentioned to you a couple of insights that will happen when you start communicating under pressure, you start mastering it. One is that you're planning ahead all the time. So we talked about that with Milton. You have to think ahead. You have to think ahead. Like, what am I doing? What is the purpose of this meeting to plan ahead? The second insight is sometimes you internalize a lot. I've been in some high pressure situations where I've fought every ounce of my being to keep my face straight and not smile or want to cry or etc. So sometimes you take in quite a bit. The third thing I wanted to mention to you also as an insight that may help you to just keep this in mind is that it's a constant fight. Bishop Burton mentioned this morning, and thank you for the heart emojis. Bishop Burton mentioned this morning, it is a constant fight to try to not be drugged down into or dragged down rather into someone else's mess. And when you are communicating at that high stakes, really pressure under pressure level, it can sometimes be a fight because you constantly have to keep working and working and working to make sure that your message is coming across the way that you want it to come across. And finally, sometimes it gets a bit lonely. And that's why we're here together as a group. When you start communicating at that higher level and you start picking up just some of the skills I talked to you about here on the channel, people will start to look at you differently and they'll say, wow, this person speaks really well. But then you have to get involved in a community that speaks that language too. And that's the reason why, regardless of where you are in your careers, make sure that you all are surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. If you stay around the same individuals, and there's nothing wrong with keeping your friends and etc. There's nothing wrong with that. But it comes to a point, if you're watching this content, where you're going to start elevating and thinking a bit differently about life. You'll think a bit differently about how you communicate. You're going to think differently about what goals you're really trying to accomplish. You're going to think differently about the income you want to make. You're going to think just differently. And so know that sometimes it may feel a little bit lonely when you are developing those skills and maybe many of your other peers don't have them, but that's okay. That's why you come here to get some support. Okay, so Milton Beat says, yeah, when she told me about the channel, I knew it was a game changer and I will pick up a thing or two ways to be a great leader. Oh, well, that's so very kind of you. I appreciate that, Milton Beats. And yes, this channel is here just for you. I'm here to support you any way that I can. If there's any topics that come up for you all specifically, if you're watching any of my videos on my live tab or my shorts, you are more than welcome to leave me a comment. I will do a video. Thank you for the heart emojis. I will do a video just for you and give you a shout out in the video. You'll see a lot of reaction videos coming up here very soon. There was one I did earlier that received some attention to it, I would say. And sometimes when you talk about things that are about politicians, people have their own biases, but the purpose of my channel is to highlight some of the things people are doing very well that may be on the global stage and maybe some aspects that they may want to improve upon. Therefore, when you are in those situations and you're speaking in front of people as a leader, you were able to say, I remember Dr. Jacinta mentioned that, and I may want to modify my message a little bit based on the mistake that this person made. So I'm here really to help you. And sometimes the reaction videos are very helpful, but just know sometimes you'll have people that will comment and go all political and start doing political banter. That is not my place. My place is not to talk about politics specifically, even though I'm very much aware of it. I'm here to really help you pick up on mistakes that people make and what they're doing really well so you stand out as an exceptional communicator and leader. Okay, Ches, man of culture, say this. Would you say knowing what to say is better than having confidence to say it during a presentation or speech? That's a really great question. So, to answer your question, and I'm going to read it again because the replay audience is going to watch this also. Would you say knowing what to say is better than having the confidence to say it during the speech? Ches, you need both. You need a mix of both because what happens a lot of times, but if I had to put, let me go back. If I had to put one in front of the other, I would say you need to know what you're saying first. This is the reason why. But you still need both now. You still need both, Ches. You still need both. But you need to know what you're saying first. This is the reason why. If you are doing a presentation or a speech in front of someone, if you Ches, you know exactly what it is about this topic. You know this topic inside and out. You can recite statistics on this topic or whatever it is that you're presenting. then the amount of knowledge that you know will start to help you to become more confident because you know the information. Many times people struggle with speaking in public because they know the information, but they don't know it that well. And they are worried that people are going to figure out and find out that they don't know everything. That's where imposter syndrome will start to come into play. But if you know the information very well, where you're comfortable talking about it in a casual conversation with someone, that will help you to start feeling a bit more confident about what you were saying. As I mentioned, you have to have a little bit of both, Chiz, a little bit of both. Because I've seen many people that are very highly intelligent people that know exactly what it is that they are going to say. They know what they're going to talk about. But when they get in front of people and all those eyes are watching them, they just freeze and they don't know what to say. Now, that's when confidence comes into play. And the best way to start building up that confidence, as I mentioned earlier, having it in your day-to-day conversations. And of course, watching the channel, learning insights from me here, but then also too, understand if someone asks you to do a presentation or they ask you to do a speech, you have already been designated as an expert in that topic. Even though you may think, no, 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 I'm not an expert. I don't know everything. That's not true. If someone's asking you to do something, they see that Ches is an expert in this topic. Let's have Ches talk about it. So keep that in mind. You are an expert in your own way. And if someone has never told you you are an expert, I'm telling you now, this is what you need to learn. You are an expert in your own way. Thank you for the heart emojis. We all, as individuals, have certain unique gifts that are given to us. And some of us are just more gifted in other areas than others as it relates to different industries and etc. We learn from each other and we can develop additional gifts, but there's just some parts of a talk, of a role, of a position, of a job that Chaz, you probably just know everything about it. Therefore, when someone asks you to do something, remember they see you as an expert. So there's not a ton that you have to do to make it not appear like you don't know what you're talking about because it's already intuitively in you in terms of your industry, your experiences, and etc. So remember you're an expert, number one. And then remember that you do need to know what you're talking about because it makes it a lot easier for you to talk about a topic you're very confident about compared to something you're not confident about, you don't know anything about. And then also you do need some confidence there. You need to be able to feel, I feel good talking about this topic and it needs to audibly come out. Sometimes people thank you for the heart emojis. They feel good talking about it, but guess what? Mum's the word. They will not say anything. I don't want you to be like that. I want you to be very proud of the accomplishments that you have done in your life, the knowledge that you have gained. You've been through some great times, you've been through some hard times. You can talk about this topic. They see you as an expert, so make sure that you see yourself as an expert also. Okay, let's see. Milton Beats says sometimes lack of confidence can still refrain you from presenting the speech you know because without the confidence you'll be overwhelmed and be hesitant to deliver even if it's something you know. Yes, Milton, that's a very good point and that's exactly what I was alluding to. Sometimes people can be very confident, they know exactly what they want to talk about, they're very knowledgeable, but they just can't say the words. Now, why is that? So let's dive deep into this. I'll share with you some of the reasons I see some of my clients I work with struggle specifically with public speaking. I have a public speaking intensive that I do for my clients, specifically if they're trying to prepare for speeches and etc. Some of the reasons why, and I'm telling you this from just being a public speaker, some of the reasons why people will be in situations that Milton just mentioned specifically is that they have not had the opportunity to practice speaking in front of a group of people. How do you overcome that? I mentioned to you those public speaking strategies and etc. are strategies and skills you need to practice every day. Every day when you're having a conversation with someone, I want you to work on your eye contact. I want you to work on your facial expressions. And I would like for you to start incorporating silence in your conversations to start mastering this because most people don't like silence. It feels awkward in a conversation. How many of you have ever felt like that? When you're in a conversation and it goes silent, have you ever felt awkward like this doesn't feel right? Put it in the comments below. Eye contact is hard to maintain. Take a look at my eye contact videos that talk about the cowboy analogy. That is my analogy for eye contact that I promise will completely change your life. My clients tell me this all the time. Their lives have been changed with the cowboy. So look out for that analogy. And then your facial expressions, make sure that they are where they need to be. You just have to learn about how you communicate and etc. But a lot of people will freeze because they just haven't practiced. They haven't been in front of those big group settings. But a lot of times, Milton, it comes down to that confidence. They don't feel like they can do this because there is a certain amount, there's a certain small part of their mind that even though, Milton, they know what to say, they know how to say it, they know the topic, they are a subject matter expert, there's a small part, Milton, tiny, small part in their head that says, you don't know how to say it in front of a group of people. So we have to quiet that part, take that part, put it away somewhere, and say, you know what? No, I do know this. And start practicing. Start rehearsing what you're going to say. If you need some support and need someone to go back and forth with you to watch it, that's fine. But that is usually the reason why a lot of times people are afraid, even though they know the knowledge, because there is still something there that says, you don't know what you're doing. There's this, I want to say there is this mindset that people have when people are speaking in front of a group of people that they know everything like the Wizard of Oz. They do not know everything. There's plenty of times where I don't know information, but I will speak like I know it because I've been trained to do this. So when you're presenting and you're speaking in front of a group of people, you see these individuals as elite communicators because you feel like, wow, they're at a whole high different level than I am. But I encourage people when they are freezing like that, Milton, to make sure that remember, you are an expert in your field. You can do this. You just need to go out and practice. And what if I told you? What if I told you this? The fact that you're speaking in front of a group of people, what if I said, you know what? If you speak in front of this group of people, it's going to completely change your trajectory of your career. Would you do it? If I told you, if you start speaking in front of people, I guarantee you're going to make hundreds of $1,000s a year. Would you do it? Most of the time, people would do it. And I say this because when you learn how to start speaking in public, it will completely change your life. It will change your career trajectory. It will change your income earning potential. It will change your life. So, yes, people do that, but ultimately, you got to make sure that you still have to speak. You still are an expert. So I hope that gives you some insight there. Okay, so let me see. Roblox says, "Thank you so much. But I have to go to bed. I'm so tired. So I'll be on the next live stream. Thank you. I learned so much. I love you and your videos. Have a nice day." Well, thank you, Roblox. I appreciate that. Videos are going to be on the replay tab. I appreciate you being here and good to see you again. Look forward to seeing you in another video. Milton Beat says, I had the same experience a couple years ago. I knew my speech, but in my case, the audience was overwhelming. It was scary, I must say. Okay, so out of curiosity, Milton, how many people was it a large audience or was it a small audience? Because one of the things that you mentioned, I appreciate you so much for mentioning this, Milton, and sharing this because a lot of people watch the replays of these videos. So it's not just here live who watch the replays. So tell me a little bit about the audience. Was it a large audience? Was it a small audience? I know it was overwhelming. So let's dive deep, Milton. What made it so overwhelming? Because if we can dive deep and figure out what it was about that audience that made you feel overwhelmed, then maybe we can start to help you move forward. And that's just from a executive coaching standpoint. Roblox says, thank you. Absolutely. I appreciate you, Roblox KIW, and hope to see you again soon, friend. Milton says it was a hall. Okay, so you were in a hallway talking to people. Okay, let me give you something to think about. And this is a public speaking strategy that you can use moving forward. The next time you have to give a speech or a presentation, if you can, or if you have the ability to access the area before you do your presentation, it will help you to start mentally and visually preparing yourself for what you see. A lot of public speakers do this, especially when they are in new locations and they're on the stage talking to people and etc. They have to get a feel for where they are. For me personally, if I'm going to an event, I would ask, can I please have access to the stage before the event? I need to walk the stage. I need to visually see it so that I'm basically recording that in my mind. And when I'm practicing my speech or I'm doing my presentation, I literally would practice it, close my eyes. That's a visualization exercise from my executive coaching standpoint, my training there. But if you can start to visually take a snapshot, almost like a picture, okay? Take a picture of that setting before your speech because it was in a hall. It would have probably been good if you knew about it to just kind of mentally close your eyes or keep your eyes open, whatever is important to you, and just really just imagine yourself in the hall and you were looking at the hall and you're saying your speech. It is something that you may think like, "Wow, that sounds a little odd," but these are the type of neuro-linguistic programming exercises I do with my clients in an executive coaching setting to help them overcome some of those challenges. That's why if something felt overwhelming, that's the reason why I want to talk to you and find out, well, what was it? Sometimes people will say it was overwhelming, it was too much, I don't know. But that is the reason why people stay stuck in where they are and they're not able to move forward because they don't take that time to figure out, well, what was it? Why was I overwhelmed? So now we know it was in a hall. Okay, we know it was in a hall. Thank you for the heart emojis. We know it was in a hall. So the next time you have a public speaking event or engagement that you're doing or a presentation, find out one, where is it going to be at? Two, who are going to be your audience members? What's important to them? And three, take some time to at least walk the space. If you have the ability to do so, it will at least help you to start mentally preparing for those situations. Okay, so Milton Beats says the professionalism in the room was too much and something I was not used to. I appreciate you sharing that, Milton. So that even though it was a lot, so that was a good another factor. So we got a couple things down. The location was overwhelming because it was in a hall. Okay, we have a way that we can manage that moving forward if it happens in the future. Take some time, figure out where your venue's at, what specifically I would say rather where specifically are you going to be at, and take that visual snapshot picture of the room. So when you close your eyes, you envision it, you see it, you're speaking it, and you start feeling a little bit more comfortable. Okay, now the professionalism in the room, you mentioned that it was too much and it was something you're not used to. Milton, that's actually a very, very good thing because I'm sure that you grew a lot from this experience specifically. Because whenever we do something that makes us uncomfortable in a good way, that challenges us, that pushes us just a little bit to do something different, we learn a lot from this experience, just as you mentioned you did in this case. Now, if you're around people that you feel the professionalism is was too much for you, let's dive into it. What about the professionalism do you feel like was too much for you? Was it the way that people were dressed? Were they dressed in suits? Were they dressed in business attire? Was it the fact that they were staring at you? What was it? What was that professionalism that made you feel like it was just something you weren't used to? Now, as you're coming up with that, let's talk about how can you become more how can this be a challenge that you had at the time that you can start going over and being able to move past it moving forward. If you're in a room of professional people, one of the things I would tell you if I was working with you specifically as a client, I would say this. I would say if the professionalism, once we have to define what is that professionalism. I can only assume if you're speaking in front of a group of people what that could potentially translate to, but only you, Milton, know exactly what it is. So whatever that professionalism was, then what may help you, Milton, is to start very, very, very subtly becoming a person that is in the room with those same type of people. Now, you don't necessarily have to be given another speech at that particular time, but I think if you can start incorporating yourself or finding events that cause you to be around the professionalism that felt like it was something that you were not used to, then you will start to train your mind and your thought process to say, oh, I have been in rooms where the professionalism has been this way. Now I'm starting to become a little bit more used to it. Oh, okay. I see the people, they speak this way, they talk this way. Oh, okay. And when you start going into those events and getting yourself around those type of people, it will help you to become more used to that professionalism that was something that you were not used to at that time. Therefore, the next time when you have a speaking engagement, a presentation, or a speech you're doing, which I'm really excited that you did. That's fantastic, and this is a good place for you. I'm so glad Cat 23rd recommended you to come here. But the next time that happens, you have a couple strategies to help you know your venue, know your audience, and whatever you felt uncomfortable about that just made you feel like it was something you were not used to. Try to get yourself in those situations over time so that the next time when you are asked to speak in front of a group of people, that professionalism that you felt as if was not what you were used to will be something that you become used to it, and it will not bother you and impact you so much. Many times, this is something that happens quite a bit, and it really helps people to move forward if they can try their best to put themselves in that mental space. We need to get in the mental space, Milton, so this never happens again, right? Never happens again. You're going to be good after this, right? So that'll get you in the space where you need to be to think. Thank you for the heart emojis. All right, Hidden Human TV. Hello, friend. High five, friend. How you doing today? Hidden Human TV says, "How are you doing?" I'm doing amazingly well, Hidden Human TV. How are you doing? I've been seeing some of your content. By the way, for those of you watching live or watching the replay, Hidden Human TV, you all should subscribe to the channel because there's a lot of great information that is on that channel specifically that talks about some of the aspects of communication and the psychology of communication specifically that is helpful for you to know when you're trying to communicate at a different level, especially when you're under pressure. So, Hidden Human TV actually has some really great content. I've watched a couple of the lives. I see your channel's growing, friends. So, congratulations on that. I know you're at 500, which is I think 500, I believe. Congratulations on that. But it's a good channel. So I say that only because I've watched Hidden Human TV. Hidden Human TV has been on my channel a few times on the lives and actually do resonate with the content. And so it's a good channel to watch for just some different ways to think about some of those more challenging situations that deal with psychology that may be a toxic relationship you're in or someone trying to manipulate you. They're all good things for you to know. So I just want to give that shout out because I really do believe in your channel and you have some really great content. If I did not, I would not say that. So I'm telling you all that yes, there's some good content there for sure. So I would definitely check out Hidden Human TV for sure on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, I believe, where you are right now. Okay. Hidden Human TV says, "I'm good. Thanks so much. And thanks so much." Absolutely, Heart. Absolutely. I'm here to support you, friend. I know you're growing your channel. Congratulations on that. So, really excited for you. So, we talked about a couple other things as it relates to communicating under pressure. What are some of the situations that you'll find yourself in when you start mastering this skill? And as I mentioned, this is a live, we're just talking about it specifically. But I mentioned to you that you're going to find yourself in situations where you are constantly planning. You will internalize a lot because you're working very hard to keep those facial expressions in check. You may find yourself in a situation where you're just constantly in a fight all the time, not physical fight, but fight in your mind. And then it does get a bit lonely when you start developing those advanced level communication skills and you find yourself noticing that your peers around you are not communicating at that level. But that's why you come to Excite Excellence Incorporated on YouTube and let's have a conversation and support each other as a audience, as people that communicate at that higher level. Okay, Hidden Human TV says, "I appreciate you 100." Absolutely, friend. You are so very welcome. Let me know what other questions you all have as it relates to communicating under pressure. Are there any under pressure situations that perhaps you have dealt with, or maybe that are coming up for you very, very soon? Maybe you have a difficult conversation coming up. You're not sure exactly what to do or how to say it. Feel free to put it in the comments below. I'll be happy to give you some insight in the next few minutes while we're still live. While I'm waiting for that, I do want to let you all know I have some changes happening to my live schedule. I have not determined exactly What the change is going to be specifically in terms of the days, it's still going to be the same amount. It's still going to be at least 7 lives a week, at least 7 lives a week. It could go into more. It may go into more, but at least seven. The days may change. So instead of Tuesday through Friday, it may go to Monday through Thursday. I'm working out the logistics. That change will probably happen not this week, but the following week. But I have some things going on right now where a lot of things are changing for me, and I'm spending a bit more time on my YouTube channel, creating a couple things, and I want to make sure I keep you all updated. Next week, maybe a little bit off in terms of my lives. I have some major changes that are happening life-wise, and so I'm just navigating everything and making sure I get back on a solid schedule that will be the consistent schedule moving forward. If you have any questions or anything comes up for you for any of my videos and you see something and you think to yourself, I wonder how I should handle this situation, feel free to put it in the comments. I'm here to support you. I will directly respond to your comment. And depending on the depth that is needed for the video, I will give you a shout out and mention you in the video and go into some more content. Let me know what you want to see on the channel. There's going to be some reaction videos. So I hope y'all are, I appreciate everyone, first of all, for being very engaged in the videos I posted earlier this week. They did receive a lot of traction to them. I did receive some comments of people that were not happy about the post that I did this week about the vice president in terms of what happened specifically from a public speaking standpoint. But as I mentioned earlier, when if you see reaction videos from different world leaders and etc., I'm not here to talk about political banter and who did this and who did that and different parties and etc. No, I'm here to talk about specifically communication strategies, how you can become either a better public speaker or how you can try to avoid the mistakes that this person made. Or you can say, this person did a great job with this person didn't do a great job with this. That is the intent of any videos that I do specifically, where you will see those reactions. As soon as I get my studio set up, I'm working on that. I'm getting everything together for it. You're going to see a lot more of those. So I want to give just a special shout out to some of you that made some comments on those videos, and especially the forensic accountant came back and there was someone that was saying something just inappropriate and was able to provide some support there. So I appreciate you all so much. But as you grow, so do the trolls. You all have to keep that in mind. When you're growing a YouTube channel, as you grow, so do the trolls. Please keep that in mind. I know it may sound frustrating, but this is why you learn how to communicate under pressure, especially in writing, because people will do that to you. They will troll you. They will make offensive comments. Just get ready for it. It happens all the time. Okay, Hidden Human TV says God will help you, sis. Heart. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And watch out. I know you probably dealt with some too. And I noticed when my channel first started out, Hidden Human TV, and I would love to get your insight too. I didn't have a lot of trolls. When I first started out, not too many at all. But as my channel started to grow, the trolls really did grow with it. I've had people come on here say offensive things about my ethnicity, what I look like, what I sound like, all kinds of ridiculous things. But it does happen. It does happen as you grow. Okay, Chaz Man of Culture says, do you prepare for a speech word for word or just key points? I find it difficult depending on how knowledgeable I am on the topic to be presented. Chaz, I have a couple insights for you, friend, that will completely change that would change your mind. That would change your life. And I'm telling you this from experience, being an experienced public speaker. When it comes to preparing for a speech, I usually like to have a structure first. There needs to be some type of structure. When I started public speaking, I would try to do the talking points. And sometimes what would happen is when you have just the talking points, you may run over time because you start talking, you start talking, you start talking, you start talking, then you're thinking like, oh wow, the time is over. And you run over time, and especially if you're presenting or in a conference setting or whatever the case may be, there's other people behind you that are waiting to present too. And if you go over time, they're going to look at you and say, hey, like, it's supposed to be done in 10, 15 minutes. Why is it 20 minutes later? So sometimes if you do it only based off of talking points, it can it may be little bit difficult unless you're a trained speaker and you know how to wrap those talking points up. Now, in terms of being able to prepare it word for word, I used to do that. I used to write out my speeches, and I don't think anything's wrong with it or type it out. It gives you something to practice. Now, what will happen if you decide to write your speech out or type it out? You'll start rehearsing it. And what will happen is, as you rehearse your speech, the more you rehearse it, the more you'll start to develop what exactly it is you want to say. And just be patient with yourself. There's going to be parts of your speech that you've written out that you completely are going to forget about. And you're going to be frustrated with yourself for doing it. But I want to tell you, it's okay. It's okay if you forget it because the audience is not going to know, oh, Chaz Man of Culture forgot. He forgot to say this topic specifically. They're not going to know what you were going to say. But in your mind, it's going to mess with you because you're going to say, why didn't I say with that? And I had this plan. So if you take a moment, you write your speech down and you start talking about it, but you devise it in such a way to where it feels like a conversation. Then when you're talking to people, they will get a sense of you are just communicating with them and you're not reading a speech. That's the secret. You do have to rehearse and you do have to practice, but you have to practice it in such a way. And this is only if you're ready for a chance. This is only if you're ready for it. If you're not, it's okay. But if you can do this with no notes, you're going to completely stand out from everybody else. This is exactly what happened to the vice president last week. If you did not see my short this video that received some traction, I'll give you a scenario. What happened to the vice president this week is that he was in Iowa, and that's Vice President JD Vance. He was in Iowa and he was doing a speech in front of a group of people. I'm assuming probably decent sized group of people. What happened, Chess, is that he had a piece of paper and he was reading his speech and something happened. He got distracted and he was trying to recite some woman's name in the speech that was obviously very important because her name was in the speech. And he lost his place in the speech, right? And it was visible. He looked down and he said, oh, somebody, I think he was talking to a congressman, I believe I lost my place in the speech. And the audience went quiet. And you know what they did next? Boo. They booed him. Yes, they booed him for losing his place in the speech, which is the reason why if you write your speech down and rehearse it and rehearse it and rehearse it and rehearse it and rehearse it, did I say rehearse it? And rehearse it to the point where it is in your mind and you don't need a piece of paper to do it, then that will help you out tremendously. If you're just starting out, have those talking points, but really, I would try to write your speech out. I would try to write it out because sometimes when you do just the general talking points, you'll get a bit long winded because you're trying in your mind to think, well, what did I say? What do I need to say? And oh, I don't know. Wait, I need to go back to this. I need to go back to that. You have to have some structure. And this is something I'm telling you from being a distinguished Toastmaster, from doing a lot of speeches. This is what has helped me. All of my speeches that I have done, I have rehearsed them and rehearsed them and rehearsed them to the point where it feels like I'm just talking to you because it's in here. It's completely in here. I don't like to do talking points unless I'm doing an impromptu type of meeting where I know I have to think on my feet. I have to speak on my feet. Then I have to plan ahead. What are the most, so let's say that happens. What are the most three important topics that you need to have some talking points around? As I mentioned earlier, typically when you are in those meetings and those presentations, people know what they're getting into. Majority of the time, you know what the meeting is going to be about. You know what the conference is going to be about. You know something. So think about what are the most important topics that people are really talking about now and come up with a couple of talking points around those. Then I would use those talking points if you're in just maybe perhaps like a Q&A or a panel type of discussion. You can use those talking points to talk a bit more about them free flowing. But when you're doing a speech or a formal presentation, I would commit that to memory and I would practice, 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 and I would write it down. But it doesn't have to be word for word. That's what a lot of people hurt themselves when they're doing speeches is that they feel like oh, I wrote this speech out. I got to read it word for word, just like JD Vance did and made that mistake. You don't want to do that. You do not have to read it and know it word for word. Know that you are going to miss parts of your speech that you wanted to say, but you know what? Your audience is going to love it anyway. And I'm sharing this from you from experience. I hope that gives you something to think about as you're trying to present. Hidden Human TV says, I think key points work better because it sounds more natural and confident when speaking. the more you truly understand a topic, the less you need to memorize word for word. Exactly. So that is very, very, very important. So the key points, they do help you, but keep in mind if you find yourself in a situation where you're just starting out and you use the key points and you haven't quite mastered how you like to speak in terms of your time, it will cause you to go over time. So having some form of a structure will help you, but just know that you have to give yourself grace with that structure. You don't have to say every single word that you need to say. The things you want to highlight are what are the most important points you want to make sure you cover and have at least a little bit of ad libbing as it relates to those topics specifically. But have some kind of structure. There has to be, you have to have some guardrails. Even though when you speak to people and you have everything where it needs to be, it will look like you didn't memorize anything because it looks like you're just talking. But I'm sharing with you a secret. There has to be some guardrails whenever you're making a speech. Just make sure you're good on your time. If you're struggling with your time, and let's say whenever you read your speech or you're preparing it, and you have your talking points, you start talking over and you're going to go 10 minutes over and you really have a hard stop at 15 minutes. That is where you have to bring that structure back in. Because if you go talking points and then you're in a group of people and you're at a conference, and I'm telling you, this happens, and people are looking at you like, Chinas, come on. Like we have like 10 other speakers. You don't want to be that public speaker that says that. That is what will cause people to look at you and say, why didn't you keep on time? We have other people. So bringing the structure in will help you out tremendously, especially if it's in a timed event. If it's a panel discussion, as I mentioned, just having those couple talking points and just talk around them, that is perfectly fine. But in speeches, just make sure you're being mindful of your time because you have to be within your time, especially if it's in a larger event. Okay, Hidden Human TV says, hey to Chaz, and Chaz says, hey back. And Hidden Human TV says, Chaz, that's actually a really good question. And a clap. Yes, Chaz, that is a fantastic question. It really, really is. A lot of people, and I don't talk about this a ton just yet on the channel, I will be, but a lot of people want to know some detailed information as you shared in terms of how do you prepare for speeches and etc. And those are some things that's been successful for me. Some of the best speeches that I have done, I have prepared them. I write my speeches out or I'll type them out. And then what I do is when I write it out, I will read through it and I find redline it. This is professional. This is speech writing. This is what I do. So I redline it and I write out what do I need to say because typically when you write it out and you look through it and you say, that's not really that important. Just remember, does the audience really need to know this? Do they need to know this? Do they need to feel this? So if you say something that brings out humor or something that brings out sadness, do they really need this? And that's when you're doing your speech writing, your first topic should be the audience, the audience, the audience. You have to remember the audience. What do they need? Do they need to know that I did this? No. Red line or take it out. Do they need to know this specifically? Yes. Then take it out. So I would go through speeches, and this is just professional speech writing. I would go through speeches quite a bit, and redline. What do they need to know? Can I take this out? Can I take this out? Because if I take information out of my speech, then when I practice and rehearse it and I notice that I'm at, let's say my speech time is 15 minutes because that's a normal average time for a speech. Let's say my speech time is 15 minutes and I've went through my prepared speech and I am at, let's say I'm at 17 minutes. When I time myself, I say, okay, what I'm saying is not, I have to cut some things out. What's not important, I will cut things out. And let's say, for instance, I get to 13 minutes for my speech and I have 15. Then I can start ad libbing and talking a bit more and adding a bit more humor because you have to keep in mind if you are in a time setting, you want to be able to engage with your audience. If you are able to engage with your audience, you have to allow yourself time on your time, right? To have pauses and stops in your speech. So, for instance, Chaz, and I know we're going into way detail today, but I could talk about public speaking all day. But let's say, for instance, you're doing a speech or you're doing a presentation and you want to add humor. You'll need to allow just a small amount, just a couple of seconds or so of time for the audience to laugh. Ha 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 ha, whatever it is, it was funny. Or if you are trying to talk about something that is highly emotional, maybe a very sensitive topic, you want to put those pauses in your speech to say, I'll give you an example. I know that many people are struggling out there paying gas right now. I pause for a few moments, right? While you're pausing, the clock is ticking on your speech. You have to allocate that time because you want your audience to reflect on something very deep that you want them to really process and feel an emotion about. All of that comes together to develop an amazing speech. And this is the reason why I tend to write my speeches out, think about what I want the audience to do, factor in those pauses because typically you're on some type of time limit there and you want to be within your limits. Because when people see you speak and they see you speak on time, they will try to have you come back and speak at different events and etc. And it really puts you out there. So I know that was a lot. I know that was a lot we talked about, but hopefully that gives you something to think about when you're preparing for your speeches. Okay, so Chaz Man of Culture says, I appreciate the insight. Absolutely. Hidden Human TV has a bicep curl and a heart. I appreciate you all. Let me know what questions you have. Chaz, that was a really great question, by the way, friend. That was a really good question. And great dialogue between Chaz, Hidden Human TV. I appreciate that. Giving some insight and also Milton Beats as well in terms of how to start communicating under pressure. And this is something that it can be very complicated because many people leaders know how to communicate majority to a certain extent, but when the conversation goes under pressure it becomes a bit harder. Many people that are public speakers, Chaz, I'm telling you, they know how to speak in public. When it comes to staying on time, factoring in a couple seconds as it relates to what you want your audience to feel, how long do you want to pause, you can anticipate a laugh, how do you want to engage your audience so that you are a memorable and exceptional speaker? And they say, hey, we want to see Chaz again. All of that comes into play. And a lot of times it's very difficult to explain that unless you've been in it and you've been doing it for a really long time. So I hope that helps you there. Hidden Human TV has a heart. Thank you for the heart, friend. I appreciate that. Hidden Human TV says you explain things very clearly, honestly. Well, and the clap. I appreciate that. No problem at all. This is what I do. This is my life. This is my passion. This is just what I love. I love communicating. I love public speaking, and I love being able to support you all to help you be those exceptional communicators that we need in the world nowadays. Because how you speak, how you communicate, all that comes together to help you be more successful in your roles, your businesses, your life. If you can get yourself out there and speak, it is one of the most, it is probably the best skill that you can ever learn to master is one, public speaking, but then really being able to speak under pressure. That will change your life. All right, Hidden Human TV says, do you think confidence comes more from preparation or experience? I I would say that's a really, really great question. In my humble opinion, I would say that it really comes from a mix of both because confidence is such a very multifactorial word. There's so much that goes into it. I have an old video I did about confidence a long time ago that talks about the definition of it. It's an old video, but I had like a four-part series on it. But it comes from a mix of both because in order for you to feel confident when you are speaking to a group of people, or just let's say in general, doesn't necessarily have to be speaking, but in order for you to feel confident about something, you have to become proficient in it first. So, for example, if you are starting a new role, a new industry, a new job, a new business, or etc., it initially you may say, I don't know really how to do this. I don't know. Let's talk about YouTube because you have a YouTube channel. Initially, when you think you're thinking, I don't really know how to post. Like, how should I do this? What should I do for my videos? How should I do this? The more you do it, the more preparation you do to prepare for your videos, the more you start to develop some type of confidence with it. Now, with that preparation comes the experience because then you are more experienced, you're more proficient at it, and confident builds up from there. So it's a combination of both. Preparing in advance helps to set you up for success for any potential negative things that may happen or challenges that may come up that you did not know about. And the experience of being able to go through them helps you to become confident. So really both are very, 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 very important. For instance, if you're dealing with tech issues on YouTube, I've had tech issues before, and there's some things that I learned specifically as it relates to YouTube that I didn't know that were issues with me being on my phone versus if I was on my laptop or my monitors, which I will be when I set up my studio, I don't have those issues. I only know that from experience. I only know that from preparing for lives in advance. So it's really both of those come together to build up confidence, hidden human TV. And that's in my humble opinion. I want to know, what do you think about it? All right, Chance Man of Culture says, "Thank you very much. You are so very welcome, friend. I know we went very, very deep into public speaking, but I hope that gives you something to think about in the audience as well." Okay, at Hidden Human TV says, "What helped you become more confident speaking publicly?" That's a really great question. Thank you for asking. For me, it was I'll share with you my journey as to why I started speaking more in public. I personally, I didn't really I spoke in public a couple times when I was younger, but nowhere to the level where I was. And really, the turning point for me was when I was in dental school. At that time, which is a long time ago now, I was president of my class for pretty much majority of the time that we were in school. And when I started out being president of the class, our class at that time, we had about 80 to 90 students. And I was president, voted president of the class, and I knew I was going to be speaking in front of people all of the time, and I wanted to become a better communicator for them. And that's in all honesty, I wanted to speak better for them because I needed to communicate to my classmates in terms of thank you for the heart emojis, in terms of what happened. I decided to join Toastmasters International at that time. I was doing Toastmasters while I was a dental school student, which is completely unheard of. I was doing a lot of extra stuff as a dental school student, which I shouldn't have been, but I have always just wanted to do more. So I did that, but then I had the chance to work with some congressional leaders over the years as well. So when I was in dental school, dental school is 4 years, by the way, but you have to go to school for 4 years before that, and then you go to school longer after dental school. But during my dental school years, I started Toastmasters because I wanted to be a better communicator for my classmates. I needed to speak in front of them all the time, and I wanted to just do the best I could. Now, I applied for an externship, and this is how speaking became something that I became better at. I applied for an externship with the American Dental Association, and this was in my junior year of dental school, where at the time I did not know this. If I would have known this, I probably wouldn't have applied for this position or this externship. But what happened is they only picked two dental students in the entire United States to spend time on Capitol Hill, learn from the American Dental Association in terms of how to read legislation, how to interact with congressional leaders, and etc. That experience in itself completely was a game changer for me because I was able to interact with many, 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 many congressional leaders at that time. I even interacted with Senate Majority Leader, which was Harry Reid at that time. And I was able to see how important it was to speak publicly and be able to articulate yourself in a way to where your voice is heard. So that factored into it. And then moving on down my career, I became a director, I became a C-suite executive, and I was always in front of people, in front of your teams and etc. And that's just something that helped me to refine the skill. And then I mentioned earlier, as a Toastmaster, they have different levels to it. And you have to do over 50 speeches and all these type of things to become a distinguished Toastmaster. So I did that, and only 1% of their 358,000 members actually accomplishes that war because it's so hard to do. All of that comes together to help me to speak better in public. And of course, I'm on YouTube, but invested a lot of time and a lot of money to help me to become a better public speaker. Toastmasters is a huge part of that, but there's only but so far that Toastmasters will take you. Toastmasters can help you get some of the basics for speaking in public, but when it comes to being under pressure, Toastmasters can't do that. I mean, they're not there just yet. You have to have someone that's actually been in lived experiences to get a sense of how do you really truly navigate those situations, and that's what I bring in. So that's how I became better speaking in public, and of course, I'll be doing more events and things like that here in the future. Okay, so Hidden Human TV says, "What advice would you give beginners trying to improve communication skills?" outside of course, Hidden TV, subscribing to my channel, number one. But I would say for someone that's just starting out, learning how to master those three aspects of communication that I talked about earlier: eye contact, silence in the conversation, and facial expressions is truly what I would tell beginners to work on. Because majority of the people in the world, they struggle with those three aspects of communication. Now, there's a lot more that goes into communication, your body language, your hand gestures, and all of that. But if I would tell anyone, if you're just starting out, start working on those three. Why? Because most people struggle with them. Therefore, if most people struggle with those three aspects, eye contact, silence in a conversation, and their facial expressions, then this will help them to start standing out amongst everybody else. If I broke it down even further and said, okay, you're just starting out learning how to communicate, what is the one skill I would want you to learn how to do first? I would want you to master eye contact. If I didn't have anything else, I would say start eye contact first. Just take some time to look at someone, because how you look at someone and your ability to maintain eye contact with them will not only help you develop and showcase your executive presence, but will help you to be able to manage a conversation if you need to, because most people struggle with that. Another part of communicating and being able to improve their communication skills is listening. Listening is so important. Many people just they don't listen. It's the same process as reading people. You have to observe the person, what they're doing, not just look at them. Listening is the same. You don't want to just listen to somebody and not really think about what they're saying. Anytime someone's trying to improve communication skills, listening is a critical part of it, because if you are able to listen, then you start to get an idea as to what is actually being said. Sometimes we're just busy, right? We're just busy individuals, and we just don't have the bandwidth to just sit and listen and fully be present in terms of what someone is trying to say. And so when they're talking to us, yeah, yeah, we're nodding our head, okay, 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 but we're listening, but are we really listening? Probably not. So I would tell people, start working on those three aspects of communication, because those three aspects of communication, even though you're a beginner, if you can start working on those now, it will help you to become a a very advanced communicator. And then, of course, listening. That's what I would say to start with. That would be my very humble opinion to start. There's a lot that goes into that, of course. There's so many things. That's what I help my clients do specifically, but that's a good place that I would say to start. So let me know what other questions you all have as it relates to this topic. I'm here to support you the way I can. I appreciate your dialogue so much. And I know it's a Friday evening, so I appreciate you all being here. And if you have any questions, you're always welcome to reach out to me and let me know. These are some really great insights today, and I definitely want to put this in to one of my softwares I'm using right now to use my shorts, because we talked about a lot of great information that will definitely help out the channel to be able to communicate at that next level compared to their peers. I hope you all have an absolutely amazing weekend. I will see you next week. I'm not sure of the date just yet, if it's going to be back on Tuesdays or if it's going to be on Monday. Just bear with me for just about a week. Bear with me for about a week, because I need to get my schedule coordinated to where I can make sure I'm doing my lives with you all. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.